Ken Rashad is not here tonight, but he did not get suspended, as most of the SWAC and MEAC football teams did over the weekend. Welcome to our show. Another interesting edition of our show tonight. We're going to talk about everything under the sun because everything literally happened over the weekend. We had suspensions, we had fisticuffs, we had a thick six, we had teams clinching championships, division titles. All of it went down this weekend. We're going to talk all about it with my team, Chris Stevens, who is going as Rodney King tonight.
Can't we all just get along?
Yes, can we all just get along, man? And Jared Hoffman, whose agenda is still alive. Team Tiffany forever, like the NWO for life. Yeah, so fellas, how was everybody's weekend? A lot of good football games, a lot of interesting football games. So how was it for you, Chris?
Yeah, I had a family engagement. I had to say goodbye to my nephew. He passed away, 35 years old, unexpectedly. So thoughts and prayers go to my sister Danielle. I love you. My nephew Kenny, fly high, young man. Time with you was much too short, but you left us jokes, you left us laughs, and just wanted to, send my condolences to my sister and my nieces and everybody in our family who it was tough, but it got football got me through. And I got to say that the one thing that Kenny would have wanted me to do was laugh. And oh boy, did I laugh at Florida A&M this weekend, boy. I can't wait to talk about that. So, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this show for my nephew, and I'm just gonna clown the whole night. So, other than that, I had a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, man. Condolences, Chris, to you and your family, man. Always tough to lose somebody, especially we're not expecting it. So, all thoughts and prayers to you, man.
Thank you.
Jay Hoffman, how did it go for you this weekend?
Well, I didn't get into a fight, so when you think about that, it's pretty good. It was going great until I saw Mike Tyson end his interview.
Oh God.
It kind of went sour from there, but it recovered. So, yeah, I'm all right.
So y'all watched that abomination of a?
No, I did not. I did not want to pay. I'm a real boxing fan, so I don't take part in the celebrity boxing matches. But everybody kept reposting Mike Tyson turning around, and obviously you saw what you saw, and I had to get off social media because I just like I don't if I see that video one more time, I'm going to delete all of my accounts. I didn't even see it on any of my other accounts, but I was like, I'm going to delete my other accounts because they keep sharing this video of this man.
Yeah, judging from Twitter, most of America didn't see it because Netflix stream was trash, apparently.
Yeah, that's what you get. Live TV is not easy, folks. It's not easy as you think.
I'm gonna tell you now, with the news that a certain black female pop star from Houston, Texas, is going to be the performing act.
They better get it together.
Yeah, because if they don't, boy, one thing about the Beehive, they show up and they show out. They're gonna go to the Netflix exec's front door with the smoke. Please believe it. And WWE is supposed to be broadcasting Monday Night Raw starting in January. Wrestling fans are just as bat poop crazy as the Beehive. So get together, Netflix. You on the clock.
I know, right? Y'all better have all your servers ready to go. IT online 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, better
make sure I can handle the volume.
Screen tests, all that. They better do screen test, audio test, all of that. Because if Beyonce is performing and she starts buffering, boy.
Prayers up.
Netflix is done in this town if that happens. Yeah, we're gonna shift to football, which y'all here for. We always start the show with who balled out, and this week a lot of players balled out. Starting with John Hannibal, South Carolina defensive tackle. The big fella had 8 total tackles and 2 sacks in the Bulldogs' 54-7 win over Morgan State on Saturday night to clinch a spot in the Celebration Bowl. They're going to Atlanta on the strength of their offense and defense from that game on Saturday night. So congrats to them. Next up, we got Keith Green of Miles College. He had 4 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. He was all over the field on Saturday against Clark Atlanta in the SWAC championship game. Miles College, they're going to the D2 playoffs. Congrats to them. To Jarian Williams, Mississippi Valley State quarterback, he went 19 of 28 for 251 and 2 touchdowns in a win over FAMU. The upset of not only the day, but the year and the century and in the history of FAMU football. My gosh, what an outcome that was. And finally, my nomination for who bought out is the entire Delta Devils football team. They not only snapped their 15-game losing streak, they also snapped FAMU's 23-game home winning streak dating back to when they were in the MEAC. And ironically enough, they were the first SWAC team to beat them in Bragg since Jackson State did it in 2018. So Jackson State and Mississippi Valley State can share in a little bit of history. My mom was an alum of Mississippi Valley State, so she's ecstatic about this. The win they had in 2 years. So congrats to Kendrick Wade and his staff, just not only for the win, but everything they've gone through. The football team has these last couple of weeks, having to endure the death of a player on their team. Ironically enough, that the day that they actually won this game, he was buried the day before. They traveled to his funeral for Ryan Quinney to pay memorial to him. So to be able to endure all that and go out there and win a football game against a really good team and make history all at the same time was just great for them. So kudos to Kendrick Wade and the Delta Devils for that. And it makes an easy transition to our next topic for the HBCU Weekend Rewind. We're going to talk a little bit more about Mississippi Valley State and their historic win over FAMU on Saturday. Just watching the game from my perspective, it looked like FAMU was not interested at all in the game. They fell behind by 11 points in the first half. They made a comeback in the second half, came up a little bit short, but everything had plagued them all season long, the slow starts, the turnovers, not being able to defend the run, not being able to run the ball. All these things popped up in this game, was a recipe for disaster and a huge upset for Mississippi Valley State that came into this game at 0-10. Fellas, your thoughts on this game, number one. Number two, like, how did this happen from FAMU standpoint, starting with Chris? Excited to talk about this.
Well, before I get to the heart of the matter or the head of the snake, if you will, kudos to Mississippi Valley State, man. I mean, they literally have just been through hell and back. I mean, not too long ago on this very particular program, we asked if they would, even make it through Division I, if they should go back down to Division II. And they were close to beating Prairie View a couple weeks ago, but had a snap on the extra point in the field goal not go their way. So they've been close before, and they were leading Jackson State for a time, but sonic boom, the Devils did indeed go to hell and back. Good job. I see what you did there. But yes, for this team and this program that has been down in the dumps for a while, for them to pull it together against, again, Florida A&M is a good football team. Not going to take that away from them. But these young men lost a teammate, a friend, a comrade. When people, I just came from a funeral this weekend, so I know what that's like. Saying goodbye to someone that you've known closely most of your life or part of your life is hard to do. And these guys, it bothers me, and I'm 43. These young men are 18, 19, 20, 22, 22 years old. So, they have to endure that and then go play a football game at Bragg Memorial Stadium at 1:00. And we all know Tallahassee going to be hot as all get out during that time of day. So for them to pull that together and get it done is impressive. But now, what's up, Florida A&M? Let's talk. Y'all wanted this coach, and I'm not throwing any shots at James Colsey. I don't know the gentleman. He seems like a good guy. He's got his name, his last name in South Florida football matters, of course. But y'all pushed out an AD. Y'all pushed out a potential coach that would have been good for you guys, and Sean Gibbs of Fort Valley State. So now y'all 5-5. That 1 year, your reign on the top was shorter than Leprechauns. So now where do you go from here? Do you, the alumni is pissed off. Everybody is unhappy. Coach Colsey said that isn't the damn standard. Well, let's talk about what the standard is going to be from this point moving forward, because it's not going to be what 2023 was. I'm telling you that right now. So, Jackson State has gotten better. Alabama State's probably going to improve. Anybody else in the West is probably going to give you guys a challenge. Shouts out to Israel Carey. What happened? But yeah, it's funny, man. I mean, it's funny to me. I mean, y'all really, just cut your nose off to spite your face in so many different ways, and now you just stuck with the results. So, hey, tough nuggets. But shouts out to Mississippi Valley State. Condolences again to that community, and kudos for bowing up and playing a really good football game and beating a real good Florida A&M team. So they deserve all the props this week.
Yeah, I want to put some sound from Kendrick Wade after the game, just talking about just what the win meant for not only his football team, but just for the Mississippi Valley State community, courtesy of HBCU Go and the Griot.
Coach, incredible win today. What was the message you set to your team before coming out here?
Wow. First of all, we did this for Ryan Quinton. We did it for Ryan. Just capture this moment. We knew there would be moments out here. And every player that stepped on this field, we told them, you'll have an opportunity to capture that moment. Make sure you do it. And we was playing for a bigger purpose today. We was doing it for our fallen brothers. So this is the greatest win of my career. I tell you, because what it meant. And we came to beat a team we hadn't beat before. This is our first time. So we made history today. So we feeling pretty good right now.
Not only did you all make history, you talked about seizing the moment, right? I talked about that with you earlier.
Yeah.
Your team had a lot put on them. Very emotional. They said goodbye to their brother yesterday. They laid him to rest today. What does this win mean, not only for the team, but Ryan Quinney and his family?
Everything. I mean, it's bigger than football. We had this platform to prove our love for him. This is the only opportunity we had. And again, we know he's looking down on us. So this here was for him. And like you said, seize the moment is all we talked about. We captured those moments. We seized those moments. And you can just feel him. We felt his presence. On that ball, when that ball went over that guy's head, I looked up, I said, thank you, Ryan, because we knew, he had his hands in on it.
Yeah, so, Jaron, what do you make of, what Mississippi Valley State did and kind of like the emotional way in which they were able to go about it over the weekend?
Well, before I get into the game, I'll just say these Mississippi Valley State players, the love that they have shown Ryan Quinney, and obviously in the wake of his passing and the way they put on for him, it's remarkable. You know what I mean? To have the focus to go out there and get the job done, nothing short of commendable. For them to be, they look mature beyond their years, to be 0-10. Anybody else would have just packed it up and said, there's nothing for us to play for, but they go out there and they played for a greater purpose than just to win a game and to get a win on their record. They did it for their fallen comrade, and that is nothing short of commendable. Now, oh boy, if you believe in karma, I can't think of a better example than this, because think about this. Since Florida A&M has been in the SWAC, the only team they have lost to in the SWAC is Jackson State. They do what they did with Tiffany Dawn Sykes. Whether you think she deserved to be terminated or not, that's your business. Whether you think they handled it right or not, that's your business. But to me, it ain't no coincidence that they did what they did with Tiffany Dawn Sykes. And in 1 year, they not only lose to Prairie View, to Jackson State, they lose to Prairie View A&M, and of all teams, they lose to Mississippi Valley State. Boy, when I tell you, that karma is just dancing all through Bragg. And remember what Daniel Richardson said at the MEAC SWAC Challenge. He said, we don't lose in Bragg. You almost lose to South Carolina State. You get by that by the skin of your teeth. You get by Bama State. You get by all the other opponents, and then the team that is 0-10, that the FanDuel odds had you beaten by 1,000, and you lose. I'm not the biggest believer in karma, but man, that kind of scary to me. I don't know, but in all seriousness, I think Chris, your assessment of it was correct. They didn't look interested. They looked like a team that knew their fate. They looked like a team that knew that this was over. The season was over. You know, they was just nonchalant, and they tried to pick it up in the fourth quarter, but you can't be sluggish for 3 quarters and then try to turn on the gas in the fourth quarter. No matter what Mississippi Valley State's record says, there's still football players over there, and they're on the team for a reason. So you have to be on your P's and Q's, or what happened on Saturday night will happen like it has. So now they go into the Florida Classic, and they could very well end the season below 500. Even though this is a Bethune-Cookman team that we will have favored to win, we had Mississippi Valley State favored to win. So the Florida Classic just got interesting. And for all them people that said, when I said the Florida Classic was going to be interesting this year, and they was laughing at me thinking that Florida A&M is just miles ahead of Bethune-Cookman, you ain't that much ahead of them now. So, man, this is just shocking. This is easily the biggest upset of the year.
Yeah, to your point, Jerry, I was watching the broadcast, and the sideline reporters mentioning how Jamari Gasket, the FAMU wide receiver, was on the sideline during the game trying to get his team enthusiastic about the game, trying to pump them up, because they were dead on the bench. They were trailing at the time. I was going to be dead on the bench. I'm like, you playing against the worst team in your conference, you're FAMU. You should have these guys for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I know you can't make the postseason, but you still had that long winning streak to protect. You had something to play for. And for you to not be engaged in a game like that speaks a lot to those players and to the coaching staff. I'm going to play with you guys what James Cozy said after the game about this historic loss that they suffered to Mississippi Valley State on Saturday.
At the time, I was hired. I was asked by myself to maintain the high level of excellence that this football team had shown over the last 4 or 5 years, especially the last 2, because that's when I joined the staff. What was shown out there today, a lot more was lost than a football game today. A lot of things, we talk about the things that led to the loss today. A lot of the same things. Not taking care of the football, penalties, and not being as good as we needed to be situationally. So, at the end of the day, you leave the stadium not good enough. Not good enough. So, you got to make some really, really hard decisions internally. But that's not a 5-5 football team sitting in our locker room. I mean, that's what our record is. But it's love, reproach. Me as the head coach of this football team. The end result of today was not good enough, and not the standard that's been set, not the standard that I was asked to keep. So that's all I got. If there's anything else, love to answer them.
Coach,
yeah.
You look at.
They got to make some hard decisions, James Cozy said. I wonder what the hard decisions are, because Rattler Nation are happy with anybody, not with Cozy, not with the assistant coaches, and definitely not with the players. So Chris and Jared, how does FAMU kind of right this ship under James Cozy? Because they got him for a couple of years. So how they turn this around?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously it starts with these last 2 games. You got the Florida Classic. I mean, again, this is an improved Bethune-Cookman football team. This is not a football team that looked like they did 6 weeks ago. So I don't know, Tiger Nation undefeated. I mean, depressed maybe, but at the same time, as the great Super Chicken used to say to Fred on that cartoon so many years ago, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. And that's probably for people that are even older than Ken Rashad. No disrespect to Ken, by the way. But you knew this was a dangerous job when you took it, man. Being the head football coach of Florida A&M, it comes with some stuff. So you got to deal with it. But if you can beat Bethune-Cookman, if you can beat Alabama A&M, you finish 7-5. No, that's not the standard, but it's still 2 games over 500. And if you go 6-6, or worst case scenario 5-7, then there's really going to be some problems. But yeah, right now it starts with finishing the season strong and then regrouping in the offseason, because right now I'm not going to say this is a lost program. This was just a lost season for them, but there's no guarantee that they'll be as bad in 2025 as they were in 2024. But they definitely going to have to do some work in the offseason for that to even be a thought.
Yeah, they lost a lot from that championship team last year, including their all SWAC quarterback. A lot of great guys on their defense, and they had some injuries this season. So they didn't have the same type of depth and talent that we thought they would have coming into the season. Some guys transferred out. So Jared, I pose a question to you, man. Like, how do Florida State? I'm not Florida State. They kind of did play like Florida State on Saturday, but how do Florida A&M kind of make it better in 2025?
They got to have a short-term memory. This is 1 year. It's just 1 year. I understand there was a lot of hype surrounding, this is the coach that they wanted. And that's why I feel sorry for James Colsey, because this is the coach that they wanted, and he's going to reap a lot of the blame for this. There was a lot of excitement surrounding Daniel Richardson coming here, his pedigree, at Central Michigan and at Florida Atlantic. There was a lot expected of him. He hasn't had the opportunity to live up to those expectations. This offense, hasn't exactly clicked like we thought they would. The defense, from game one, has had their weaknesses, and they only got expounded more as the season went on. They improved a little bit, but it never got to the point where they looked like a team that could repeat as the SWAC champions or as the Celebration Bowl champions. So have a short-term memory. Know that this is just 1 year. Know that this is just this is an anomaly, and actually believe that this is an anomaly and that you're going to come back stronger next year. Get on that recruiting trail, because I believe Daniel Richardson's gone. I'm not sure how many years Jamari Gassett has, remaining, but just know that this is just 1 year and that you'll come back stronger next year. Because if you don't have that belief that you will come back stronger next year, you will not be in a situation where you are contending in the SWAC next year.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's going to get harder for families because Jackson State is on the rise. They're a young football team. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, they probably would have been in it this season. I'm not for like losing all their quarterbacks. Alabama A&M, they had one of the top offenses in the SWAC, despite them just teetering around 500 this season. So running through the SWAC like they did the first 3 years, aside from losses to JSU, won't be routine for them in 2025, especially since they don't have the same type of players coming back as Jared mentioned before, or maybe the same type of recruiting prospects coming in to the program under James Colsey, who's a heck of a coach, but it's not Willie Simmons. And Willie Simmons was able to build their program up to the point where, you knew year in, year out they were going to be one of the favorites to win the SWAC or win the SWAC East. So a lot, like Cody said, a lot of hard decisions are going to have to be made in the offseason to find out how to right this ship. And we'll see where it goes from there. But switching gears now, we're going to turn to actually winning football team, and that was Virginia Union. They won the CIAA championship in a pretty hard-fought defensive struggle over their in-state rival, Virginia State, to clinch the championship and go to the Division II playoffs. I know, Jared, you watched this game pretty closely on Saturday. What did you make of the game, the way in which the game was played, and how Virginia Union was able to come out on top in this one?
Well, I flipped away to this game. I flipped to this game a little late, because I was watching the beatdown in the SIAC championship game, which we'll get to, but this game played out a bit how I thought it would. I thought it would be a little bit more offense to this game, but both defenses are elite. So it's not surprising that it was a defensive struggle. Jada Byers and Curtis Allen both had stellar performances. The Virginia Union defense did a great job of shutting down that pass offense of Virginia State and really shut down Jamil Williams, made him, I wouldn't say non-existent, but he wasn't able to put an impact on this game, so Virginia Union needed this win bad because they were in a struggle for that last D2 playoff spot. They were in there with Emory and Henry and Lenore Ryan and Johnson C. Smith and all those teams. This win just barely got them in that D2 playoff field. So it was a big win for them. Go back to back for the first time since 1983 when they win their third championship since the turn of the millennium in 2000. And I'm excited about their prospects in the D2 tournament, in the D2 playoffs. I'm curious how they attack that Wingate team. We'll preview that game during the Wednesday show. But I'm excited to see the prospect of what they could potentially do in the D2 playoffs.
Yeah, Chris, can the way in which Virginia Union won that game on Saturday, having to really fight for it, no pun intended, what prospects does it give them to actually win a playoff game? I know last year they came into the playoffs hot and they got their doors blown off. How does coming into the playoffs after a hard-fought win this past Saturday, what can I do for them going against the Wingate team that's really strong?
Well, first and foremost, they won't have to drive all the way up to Pennsylvania to play the game. That helps because they went from Richmond, Virginia to I can't remember if it was Kutztown or Shippensburg. It was one of those pieces.
It was Kutztown.
Okay, it was Kutztown. So yeah, if you folks, I know we have a lot of folks that are from the southeastern, southern part of the United States. Pennsylvania is a very annoying state to drive through. Once you get past Philadelphia, God bless you. So Virginia Union had to suffer through that drive to get to Kutztown, which is in the northern part of the state, and then played a really good Kutztown team and didn't show up. They didn't show up, but Kutztown just showed up a little bit more. But yeah, they get, a little closer to home. They play Wingate. That's really good. So hopefully, if anything, this defense has shown that they're ready for the D2 playoffs this year. So, depending on, I don't know if Wingate, is a pass happy team or they run, or do they have a lot of, a mix of what they do offensively. But the way Virginia Union was able to limit Virginia State's offense, I think that's a confidence booster for them. So I feel like they'll have a better chance against Wingate than they did this year than they did against Kutztown last year.
Yeah, so how much pressure is on them to win on Saturday? They've been many, many years. They probably have one of the top players in all Division II football and Jada Byers on their team, but they have yet to win a postseason game with him, despite how great he's been. How much pressure actually is on them to actually come out with a win in the playoffs, starting with Jared?
This is the best Virginia Union team since the surgence of Jada Byers. You have a legit backup running back in Curtis Allen, who could be a starter on anybody else's team. You have a legit passing game with RJ Vick at the receiver position. You have a quarterback who actually is able to sling the ball. You have a defense who is able to lock in and put up big performances like they did on Saturday night. This is their best opportunity right now to get a game in the D2 playoffs and potentially get to the regional final. This is the best possible team that they're going to have in their bid for a D2 playoff run. I think that because I think this is the best year, because I'm not sure how many years Jada Byers has left, if he's going to want to enter the draft after this season is over. I'm not sure if Curtis Allen is going to want to go elsewhere to find a starting spot. You don't know what the future holds. So while you have the best team that you have had in years, do the best that you can to get the job done. Yeah, that's the thing. That's going to be the question. Can they pass the ball against a legit Wingate team that they have played in the playoffs recently? They played them in the playoffs in 2022, and they lost in that one pretty badly, might I add. So how much better? How much have they learned from those two playoff losses against Winston and Kutztown that'll translate this Saturday? It remains to be seen. But this is the best opportunity they have to get a win in the D2 playoffs.
Yeah, Chris, you agree with Jared on that one?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is college football. I mean, it's never been, more now than ever, it has become a year-to-year business. College sports has definitely become a year-to-year business. And you have to strike while the iron is hot, as the old folks like to say. And, you probably lose Jada Byers to, the NFL draft after this year. As Jared said, maybe Curtis Allen, gets enticed by a high-level D2 or a HBCU D1 to become their starting running back. You don't know what the future holds for this team, so you have to be ready when those opportunities are presented for you. As the great Chennis Berry says, and, we'll talk more about South Carolina State in a minute, NOW, we focus on now, no opportunity wasted. So, Virginia Union has to take advantage of the opportunity that is right in front of them at this particular moment. And it's Wingate. It's closer to home. You have the best, as Jared said, you have the best team you've had in the Dr. Alvin Parker era. So now this is the time. You got to take advantage of what's in front of you. And you will probably learn more about Wingate during the week so we can give you guys a full scale preview. I know Jared will have us have us prepped for that on Wednesday. So, we'll be more in tune, but feel like this is a good chance for Virginia Union to make some noise in the D2 playoffs and hopefully, get some kids to see that game. Be like, wow, maybe I can go to Virginia Union and be a star and help them win a D2 championship. So, these games do matter. So, Jared Hawkins, like the old folks say, strike while the iron is hot. I'm not that young myself, but you get the picture. But yes, this is a very important opportunity for Virginia Union, and they can't waste it.
Yeah, that's for certain. And the other Division II football team that clinched a spot in the playoffs, Miles College, they ruined the Cinderella story of Clark Atlanta, winning that game 53-30-25 in a SWAC championship. Just a dominant performance from them. I think a lot of people might have slept on how dominant Miles College is or was this season. I thought the game would be closer, just considering that offense that Clark Atlanta has, led by David Wright III, but they held them in check the entire game, and it wasn't close from start to finish. So, fellas, what prospects do we give Miles College to make a run in the D2 playoffs, starting with Jared?
Well, first, to recap the game, said at the start of the show, I'm a boxing fan. For all my boxing fans watching, if you didn't see this game, think about the Floyd Mayweather fight against Arturo Gatti. That's what this game was. A straight butt whipping from start to finish. Let me give the positives for Clark Atlanta. That second quarter, they actually showed some fight. David Wright made some great reads. Jamal Jones got in on the action and made some great plays, some great effort plays to score 2 touchdowns in the period. The Clark Atlanta defense was actually able to get pressure on Miles, and they forced a turnover that was actually gifted to them. I thought it should have been an incomplete pass, but they got it either way. Other than that, there was nothing from Clark Atlanta. Absolutely nothing. The beginning of the game, their first possession, they're actually moving the ball downfield effectively. And then Keith Green, who I highlighted him as my player who balled out, he gets a strip sack and they return it for a touchdown. And the route was on from there. The second half was brutal to watch. It was absolutely brutal. It was just horrible reads by David Wright. It just pressure on him from the jump. He was banged up all second half. He took big hits all second half. And he showed great toughness to get up every single time and get back in the game. But Clark Atlanta was just overmatched from the start. And I was holding out hope that they would learn from the mistakes that they made in their earlier regular season matchup. But Miles just has their number, and they're just a better team. If they played 10 more times, Miles wins 10 more times. So like they're just the better team. Now, as far as what they could potentially do in the D2 playoffs, they have Carson Newman, who lost to Wingate in the South Atlantic Conference Championship game. And Carson Newman is the South Atlantic Conference as a whole is a very good conference. They had about 4 or 5 teams that finished with at least 7 wins. So there was a lot of teams coming from that conference that could have potentially gotten berths in the D2 playoffs, but it's the 2 championship game participants and Lenore Ryan who end up getting those berths, and it's Carson Newman that draws Miles. This defense, they are playing on an entirely different level, from the defensive line to the linebackers to the secondary. You know, they're balanced all around. I don't see any weak spots other than that second quarter. I didn't see any weak spots from them. You know, they did allow quite a few big plays that are kind of you got to take a second look and be like, you can't allow that to Carson Newman, you know. But I like their chances. If their defense is focused like they were in that second half and don't give Carson Newman an inch, I definitely can see Miles taking this win and potentially making a deep run in the D2 playoffs. The question is, will their offense translate? You know, Gennaro Scott, you know, he got ejected from the game, was one of many people who were problematic and violent this weekend. We'll talk about that later, you know, but the fact that Jadero Scott had more rushing yards than Clark Atlanta as a whole, he had 10 fewer attempts and didn't play from the mid-third quarter on because he was ejected. You know, so if he's able to have a complete game from start to finish, who knows what Miles is able to do. Cameron Ivory is also going to be a big part of that. Trevante Abner is going to be a big part of that. You know, that offense is going to be the key to whether or not they are able to make a run in the D2 playoffs. But the SIAC, what they did in the SIAC championship game was brutal.
Yeah, Chris, Miles makes a postseason run if they do what starting this weekend?
Just keep defending, like Jared said. I mean, I think we kind of overlooked Miles because in our haste to be happy for Clark Atlanta, which we should still give them their props. 6-3-1 after going 0-10 is phenomenal. Kudos to Teddy Keaton and his staff and those players. They deserve a ton of credit. But we overlooked Miles because we thought, okay, maybe this is the year Fort Valley State gets it done. Okay, then Fort Valley State loses the first weekend to Clark Atlanta. And then, of course, okay, maybe now it's Albany State. No, Albany State can't get it done. So now it's like, okay, maybe it's Tuskegee. No, Tuskegee can't get it done. But who was consistent throughout the whole year? Miles College. And remember, this is a Miles team under Sam Shade that beat Alabama State last year. So they're not afraid of big game environments by any stretch of the imagination. So if I'm Carson Newman's coach, I'm taking Miles College very seriously, because if they defend for 4 quarters like they're capable, like they did earlier this season against West Alabama and only lost that game in the last couple seconds, and then if their offense does show up, that they could absolutely win that game. So yes, if Miles College defends, just plays 60 minutes of sideline to sideline pursuit and keeping Carson Newman in front of them, then they absolutely can win the game. Mute.
Days since Kendrick talked on mute.
Dang it. I need to get that sign printed up real soon, because I continue to do that. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, but like the way Miles has played all season, with them being so consistent, as Chris mentioned, I think they can make a run in postseason play. That it helps to have a home game to start out round 1, so they won't be in unfamiliar territory. But like, we'll see how their offense translate to Division II playoffs when that starts. That's kind of been the bugaboo for every Division II team that's been in playoffs in the last couple of years. We saw it with Virginia Union, when Jada Byers couldn't get going, they had no plan B. We saw with Benedict the last 2 years when their offense stalled, they didn't have a plan B. So we'll see if Miles can not only be defensive minded like they have been, but have a little bit of offense to go along with it too. So moving on to Division I, championships, at least divisions, were clinched in the SWAC. Jackson State won their third SWAC East championship in the last 4 years. After beating Alabama State on Saturday, and Southern University, they beat Arkansas Pine Bluff on Saturday to clinch the SWAC West. And my favorite picture of the day is I'm just laughing at Willie Miles with his Heisman pose, his thick 6 touchdown. It was kind of like the symbolic moment of that football game on Saturday in the win for Southern. Shout out to Terrence Graves. He wins the SWAC West his first year as head coach. Today was his birthday, actually. He turned 56 years old. So what a birthday gift for him. He's going to lead Southern against Jackson State in Jackson on December 7th, which should be a good football game. So, fellas, what do we make of not only the seasons for both of these teams, but the matchup a couple weeks from now down in Jackson, starting with Chris?
Well, one thing that we're good at talking about with these football teams is, the stuff that's going on off the field. And Terrence Graves got, a little bit of disrespect from the Southern Board of Trustees when they were trying to hire him. And what he has done with a team that still has questions at quarterback, because Noah Biden wasn't the answer. Zayt said there's a redshirt freshman who's going to need a lot more seasoning, but lo and behold, they are the last team standing in the SWAC West, and they will go on to a Mississippi Veterans Memorial Coliseum on December 7th for the right to go to the Celebration Bowl. So Terrence Graves deserves a ton of credit for, blocking out the noise and waiting on his opportunity, getting his opportunity, and taking advantage of it as a head coach. Now, hopefully, the Southern Board of Trustees will get the heck out of his way and let him do his job, which he's shown he's good at. Jackson State, though, not surprised. I don't know why people had them ranked third to start the season. I always thought that was I thought that was egregious myself. But TC Taylor has proven that he's a great football coach, number one. He's a great recruiter, number two. And that Jackson State program, people aren't going to like what I'm about to say here, but they had a history before the guy who's now at Colorado. They were good then. They had guys named Walter Payton, Jackie Slater, folks like that. I mean, it wasn't like Jackson State was like this moribund, depressing football program before this dude just started, high stepping on campus. So, but yes, getting TC Taylor in that seat was big for that team because, of course, he's probably the greatest receiver in Jackson State history. He knows the program, he knows the lay of the land, and he's done a phenomenal job in building that team back up, to championship level. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm not ready to make a prediction yet because these teams still have one more game. Jackson State has the Soul Bowl next week. And of course, I don't know, is the Bayou Classic great again? We can't ask Ken because he's not here, but of course, Southern has the Bayou Classic Thanksgiving weekend against Grambling. So they still have one game to play before they play each other, but it should be a very, very fun matchup. And both of these coaches deserve a ton of credit for getting their teams to this level.
Yeah, just the point about TC Taylor. Last year during SWAC Media Day, Conor Maynard, was asked about like Jackson State and their prospects after looking at the particular order finish, and he said like Jackson State still got talent despite the fact the people had transferred out of the program after Deion Sanders left for Colorado. He said, and I quote, "They're not going to fall off the face of the earth because Deion Sanders isn't anymore. They still got talent, and Taylor is a really good coach, and he's been proven right." So they won 7 games last year, and they've won 9 this season. They obviously won the SWAC East, so kudos to TC Taylor, for recruiting as well as he did, for keeping a lot of guys in Jackson when they could have easily left either for Colorado or elsewhere. Just keeping the program intact, rearranging the coaching staff a little bit to get that a little bit more fortified. So he's going to win Coach of the Year running away. Also, you talked about Terrence Graves and just the disrespect of that Board of Regents meeting that we all saw last season when Roman Banks was recommending him to be hired. Just the things they said about him, they didn't feel like he was the right man for the job. He turned out to be that. And today, during the SWAC coaches call, he mentioned that during the interview process, he said, like, we have enough talent here to win the SWAC West or win the SWAC championship. And with his guidance, all his years of being an assistant coach, had a cup of coffee as a head coach, they able to have a winning season under him. It wasn't always the prettiest of games that they played, but they were able to win 3 overtime games. They were able to come from behind in some games too. So that's a testament to him and the belief that his players had in him and he having in them. So it's a really good matchup coming up on December 7th. Well, I don't know who's going to win that one. I'm hoping who does win that one, but it should be a fun matchup nonetheless. But Jared, your thoughts on this one, Southern, Jackson State, and just kind of like, just the trajectory of both programs right now.
I said at the beginning of the season that a team that wins the SWAC East was going to win the SWAC, and nothing that has transpired in this season has made me think any differently from that point. So, yeah, I just think that both teams definitely defied expectations. As far as Jackson State being picked to finish 3rd in the SWAC East, I don't think that's as disrespectful as people think. I think Alabama State had some high expectations coming into the season with Andrew Body coming in, and being a part of that defense. I thought that people had high expectations for that team getting a quarterback finally. So them being picked to finish 1st ahead of Florida A&M, a Florida A&M team that since they entered the SWAC, have been a team that has before this season had not lost to anybody other than Jackson State. So of course you're going to expect them to be able to keep that going with, even though most of their team left. Like I said before, you're getting one of the biggest recruits from the transfer portal and Daniel Richardson coming to your team. So you're not expecting that big of a drop off, so when you think about all of those things, it's not as disrespectful that Jackson State was picked to finish 3rd. Of course, Jackson State fans are going to say it's disrespectful because they have high expectations of their team, and they should, because this was a good team coming into the season, and we're seeing how good they are now that they're at this point where they have won the SWAC East and will play for a SWAC championship game. Now, as far as Southern, all due respect to Terrence Graves and Southern, but the SWAC West was just not competitive. They were just the best of a division that is just not very good. So, give them all the credit in the world. They still went out and got the job done, and fully expect them to treat this Bayou Classic as a warm up for the SWAC championship game. Sorry, Ken. But I'm tired of beating around the bush. We saw a thick 6 this Saturday, and we don't see those enough. Man, what's his name? Willie, what's his last name?
Miles.
Willie Miles. Man, you brightened up my Saturday. Seeing you give that stiff arm and just break that tackle and just lob the ball into the end zone, man, that was something special. Man, you can have the Derrick Henry stiff arms. You can have the Hail Marys. You can have the hurdles backwards in a game like Saquon Barkley. Give me a thick 6. There's nothing better in the game of football. There is nothing better. It will never be outdone. And that
they should put that picture in the Southern University Athletic Hall of Fame.
Yes, absolutely.
The Southern University Hall of Fame. Put that in the Black College Football Hall of Fame. That was artistry. That was I can't even describe it in words. That was one of the greatest plays in the history of Black college football. That man is 5'9", 350 pounds. To be nimble like that, to break that tackle. I know I was joking at the beginning, but seriously, that man, did you see the way that he bent and contorted himself to break the tackle? I'm way smaller than him, and I probably couldn't have done that. I probably would have broke every bone in my body trying to do that. The fact that he was able to do that, that was special. It's nothing like a thick six.
I'm an inch taller than Willie Miles, and I was 350 in a previous life. Well, not a previous life, but a few years ago. But if I had tried that at his size, I mean, it's, when I was that size, I probably would not be here talking to you guys today. So Willie Miles I think we get caught up in heights and weights when it comes to football players, but regardless, these guys are athletes. You still got to go out there and execute regardless if you're 6'6", 250 like Cam Newton, or you're 5'9", 350 like Willie Miles. You still have to go out there and be nimble and athletic and quick. And he does. If it's not the Heisman winner for this year, we got a problem, because there's nothing like seeing that big fella scoop that ball up, hit my man with the stiff arm, and then when he finally got his hands on, he's just like, let me get away from you, and then he runs in the end zone. I think the best part of the video though is after he does that, I don't know what this is called when they do that in the end zone, but I find it very funny. But he did it, and his teammates were surrounding him. He was sitting on the bench, and everybody was dapping him up. Yeah, he dapped him up. He said, and the only thing that anybody could hear him say was like, "Yo, go get the trainer." So he knew that he had pushed himself to the limit, but he's got a story to tell, his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. He could literally sit there like the Grandpa Simpson meme and say, "Let me tell you about the time I scored a touchdown in my last game as a defensive lineman and how I, went viral for it." It was awesome, man. So, if Chris Berman was calling that, they'd been rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Like it was awesome. Yeah. So,
could go all the way.
Shouts out to Willie Miles, man. Incredible.
Yeah, man. Great story, man. He should win the Heisman for that running away. Maybe the Heisman too. Let's give him everything, man. Our next topic going to be talking about a team that clinched a spot in the Celebration Bowl. That will be the South Carolina State Bulldogs. They thrashed Morgan State 54-7 on Saturday night. This team, the Bulldogs, first-year head coach Chennis Berry, come from Benedict, brings along with him 14 of his guys from Benedict, and they run through the MEAC. Not only did they run through the MEAC, they won out-of-conference games too, and they almost should have beaten Florida A&M too. That's how good they were. But fellas, what do you make of this run for South Carolina State? Just their season overall, and kind of like sneaking up on everybody and proving a lot of people wrong this year, starting with Jared.
Look, I know I'm the D2 advocate on the panel, and I laugh at people that thought that they weren't going to be any good, but I did not expect this whatsoever. They just dismantled Morgan State. I was about to go to that game, but I had to stay home and watch the D2 conference championship games, of course. But man, I did not see that coming whatsoever. South Carolina State, whoever they play in the Celebration Bowl is going to have a lot to deal with, because on both sides of the ball, they are a handful. Eric Phoenix went out in like the second quarter and they scored 30 points without him. That
against a really good defense too, by the way.
And a great defense. A great defense. And I know Antoine Sewell, somebody that I know, that I don't know personally, but that I know who coached from him coaching at Bowie, he gave that defense a handful. They better be lucky this ain't mid-season, because if it was mid-season, they would be running now till tomorrow morning, the way they played on Saturday. But this South Carolina State team is even better than I expected them to potentially be. I already been on the record saying that I thought they would be my sleeper, but I didn't expect them to put it together and win the MEAC this soon. They won it in dominating fashion. Like, we could have highlighted their entire defense, how great they played this past Saturday, but if they are, depending on who they play in the Celebration Bowl, this defense is going to be tough to deal with for either Jackson State or Southern, and I'm going on the record right now. I have them winning the Celebration Bowl. They're just on a heater right now. I can't see them losing to either of the SWAC championship representatives.
Wow, you agree with that, Chris? And like, what does this say that Tennisberry is able to come in to South Carolina State, replacing the legend that is Buddy Pugh in his first season, just have his team play the way they played all season long?
I got a chance to ask him about that, honestly, in the MEAC coaches call today. And he admitted that he was standing on the shoulders of giants, and he said that, having Buddy Pugh's ear, because Coach Pugh was still hanging around on campus, of course, obviously, that helped him out a lot. But I think what we're starting to discover is that Tennisberry has, no one said he was a bad football coach, when he was at Benedict. Obviously, they were undefeated in the SIAC the last 2 years he was there. So, I mean, he obviously knows what it takes to get talent and have that talent be on the same page, because I watched that game. Obviously, I covered this game for HBCU Sports, and Eric Phoenix went out in the first quarter, late first quarter, on a slide. He kind of contorted his leg. It looked worse than it probably was, because coach said he could have gone back in. So that means that's a good sign for the Celebration Bowl. I doubt he plays this week, though, because, I mean, what's the point? I mean, when you have Ryan Stubblefield, and Ryan Stubblefield had two of the prettiest passes I've seen from a quarterback in Black college football this year. There was a back shoulder throw that Justin Smith-Brown caught prior to Stubblefield throwing this pretty pass in the corner that Caden High was able to get the feet down on. It was just like, wow. So they have two good quarterbacks. We knew that Eric Phoenix was dope, but for Stubblefield to come in and lead that offense as well as he did, I mean, this South Carolina State team is stacked. Make no mistake about it. They got stacks like the International House of Pancakes, and they just literally have so much talent in every aspect. Diego Addison, who came from Benedict, had the 100-yard pick six. John Hannibal, the defensive tackle who I selected for who balled out, he literally just wreaked all kinds of havoc. I mean, they were so focused on trying to contain Jaden Brockton that John Hannibal just ran loose. And you got to love when a plan comes together. My A-team fans will get that reference. But yeah, this South Carolina State team, I don't think it's a surprise that they're as good as they are. But I think people, North Carolina Central, yeah, we knew they were going to be good. Howard had a lot of talent. So I get why people picked them. But I thought deep in the back of my mind, I was like, people are underselling South Carolina State. And here we are. And one quick historical fact before I turn the floor back over to Kendrick. South Carolina State has had 4 football coaches since 1973. 4. All of them, Willie Jeffries, the late Bill Davis, who Tennisberry said recruited him, by the way, and Buddy Pugh, and now Coach Berry, have all won MEAC championships. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers of Black college football. You get a football coach every 15 or 20 years, and that coach is successful. I mean, what can you say about that? It's just impressive how, South Carolina State has become like it. They've always been like one of the MEAC's best programs overall, but we got to start talking about them in the same light that we talk about Tennessee State, that we talk about Jackson State, that we talk about Grambling, that we talk about Southern, that we talk about FAMU. I mean, anybody that's in the know in Black college football knows all of that already. But, this South Carolina State program, they just keep winning. That's all they do. They've done it for the last 52 years. So, I mean, Coach Berry, not surprised. This program, not surprised. I'm not ready to say that they'll win the Celebration Bowl yet, because I think Jackson State can give them a challenge. I mean, if it's somehow Southern, I think they might actually kick Southern from pillar to post. But them against Jackson State, I think is going to be a really fun game if it turns out to be that way. Mute again.
Gosh, darn it, Kendrick.
That's twice in the same show. I'm off my game on that on Monday Night Football. I'm like the Dallas Cowboys of the show right now, just often bad. Yeah, but the thing about South Carolina State is they play so damn fast on both sides of the ball, man. Their offense is up tempo. Have a lot of fast guys on offense at the skill positions, especially Eric Phoenix is hard to tackle. The biggest play of their season was that Thursday night game against North Carolina Central, where he got the first down on 3rd and 15 with his legs in a tight ball game to help win them that game. So yeah, like they are a dynamic football team, and Kennisbury said after the game, like, they're not done yet. This is just the first step for their program. And so, like, I could see them going on a run. This is not like Howard where they come out of nowhere. Didn't really have a history of winning. As Chris mentioned, this program has had a history of winning big. And so I think with Kennisbury, as young as he is, they could go on like a Willie Jeffries, Buddy Pugh-esque run in the MEAC over these next few years as long as he's there. So I'm not picking a Celebration Bowl winner, but they're going to be a very formidable opponent. And they're going to do that game justice when they play down in Atlanta come December 14th. So moving on to our last topic of the show. Boy, people were upset over the weekend. There were 3 notable post-game fights. One in this game here between United State and Alabama State. There was one between North Carolina Central and Howard. And there was one in the CIAA between the 2 Virginia schools that led to fines, suspensions, and even a change of protocol involving the Celebration Bowl is going to come up next month. And Chris and I, we wrote a story today. It's on our website right now where we spoke to Black college football coaches involved in these fights and kind of like asked them like how will they deal with this in the future, you know, what adjustments they're going to make, what they're telling their players about staying away from altercations. And so a lot of people on social media said like this is a black eye on black college football games and we don't need to have this around, which is true. Like I don't condone fights myself. I don't think there's any place for like violence on the football field, but it's hard to have these young men turn off that aggression after playing 60 minutes of football when you're told to be aggressive the whole time. But there are lessons to be learned in all this. And a lot of guys got suspended from teams that participated in these fights. I believe 16 total from the Jackson State, Alabama State fight. No word on suspensions from the CIAA post-game fight. And I believe it was reported earlier tonight, several places that more than 24 were suspended as a result of the North Carolina Central Howard post-game brawl. So, Chris, you got to hear what both Larry, Howard's coach, had to say, and also Trey Oliver had to say on the MEAC call today. What did they make of all this from their comments?
Well, first off, Trey Oliver, he started with a statement. Like it wasn't a prepared statement, but it was clearly on his heart. He said he was disappointed and embarrassed, and that's not, the way his team plays football. And he said that, they'll self-correct that. Same thing for Larry Scott, because I got to ask Coach Scott a question before, other members of the media tried to get him, to answer the question. He was not in the mood to answer them, so I consider myself lucky. But yeah, Coach Scott said that you got to learn that 60 minutes of football is 60 minutes of football, and that keep it between the lines, and then when you're done, shake hands, be classy, and remember who you represent. And football is an aggressive game. These are guys who go out there and literally just launch each other like launch at each other like torpedoes, and with the force of mid-sized automobiles hitting each other for 60 minutes. So yes, you're going to be mad if you lose. And yes, you're going to feel like there were some dirty things done to you during the game, but you got to let it go. You've got to let it go. I mean, the game is over. You lost. You got to live with those consequences. You got to, bow up and be better next time. But it looks bad when you guys are, and I'm not one of those people that believes in respectability politics, because a lot of people are just like, oh, this looks bad on black people. Oh, this looks bad on HBCUs. Man, we see PWIs fighting all the time. We literally saw Vanderbilt students carry a damn goalpost 3 miles down to not the Mississippi River, but one of them damn rivers in Tennessee, and throw the damn goalpost in the river. It doesn't look bad on them. So why does a post-game fight look bad on us? That's my only question. I'll let you guys answer that on your own time. But yeah, overall, and the coaches admit that they have to do a better job of just getting their guys in line. But it's just hard when you play, because football is a physical, violent game. And it's just hard to say, okay, once the gun goes off, like, oh wow, now I can return to being a regular human being. I don't think that's possible. So yeah, we're gonna have to be really clear on how coaches, are able to, rein their guys in, because it's good. It's a hard challenge, because football is a hard game. And yes, Ryan, I did hear. I was sorry, but yes, Ryan, I did hear what Trey said about, the scheduling problem. But yes, we'll talk about that another time. Sorry, Kendrick.
Oh, no problem. So, Eddie Robinson Jr., the coach of Alabama State, was asked in the SWAC media call today about this, and here's what he had to say.
Type of game, and no, I don't think either team had a concession speech or something to deal with what happens if you don't win. Everything we was focusing on, hey, we're winning the game. And so when you don't win and it doesn't go your way, the young men have to understand that you have 60 minutes to play a physical, hard football game. And at 60 minutes and 5 seconds, at that point, you go back to being a normal citizen. And then at that point, you got to go back to, moving forward and getting through that. And so that's something that we've definitely talked with all the guys on our team, not just this week, but is be in control of yourself at all times. Like, that's my rule number one in life. I tell the kids that I have the same standard. I go out there and make a mistake late in the evening or do something like that, then I won't be the head football coach at Alabama State anymore. So it's not just the level of restraint that we want the kids to have. Kids, coaches, everybody, administrators, it's just the way the life is, and they have to understand that. So we've definitely addressed it. Some kids won't be playing Hornet football anymore, and unfortunately, but that's kind of where we are. You have to have that zero tolerance, and that's how we're moving forward with it.
Yeah, Eddie Robinson Jr. mentioned that some players will be suspended indefinitely. It may be short term or long term. That's in addition to the suspensions held down by the SWAC today. And as a result of these string of fights that happened over the weekend, Celebration Bowl Executive Director John Grant announced to HBCU Game Day last night that the loser of the Celebration Bowl will be forced to head to a locker room, and the opposing coaches will get the chance to shake hands while the winners get to celebrate on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And he's quoted as saying, "This is something we can't sweep under the rug. People are seeing this. ESPN is carrying these games. That means you don't want to see a bunch of black people on the field fighting because it looks bad for them." So, Jared Hoffman, your thoughts on just what's transpired over the weekend, and what, if anything, can schools and conferences do about it?
There's not much that they can do about it, because emotion is going to boil over. These are rivalry games. These aren't, two teams that don't have history with these are teams that have history with each other. So for anybody thinking that this is a HBCU problem, it's not. We see fights happen all the time in football. Emotion boils over. Teams get frustrated. It happens. And it's not going to stop happening just because you change some protocol. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's going to happen in the Celebration Bowl. I'm not saying that it's going to happen in the SWAC championship game. I'm just saying, in general, it happens in sports. You can easily see it in the NFL. It doesn't stop just because you're at a certain level. It happens. So, for anybody thinking that this is just an HBCU problem, and these HBCU players got to tighten up. No, that's not the thing. They have to tighten up individually, but not because they're HBCU guys and they're black guys and the people have a perception about black people. No, they have to get it together, because you're playing not just for yourself and the teammates in the locker room, but you're playing for the university that's on your chest. You know what I mean? You're playing for the greater purpose of, being a representative of, making it to this position that a lot of people wouldn't be able to make it to. A lot of high school players aren't able to make it to that level and have, success at the college level like you can, so you have to show a level of grace and a level of maturity when you get to this level. You know what I mean? So you hate to see it. A lot of people say, well, I don't like all this friendliness in sports. I don't like all these people shaking hands and hugging each other. Well, the alternative is this. So you got to pick what you want. Do you want them fighting each other and, pushing and shoving and all this type stuff? Or do you want them to actually be respectful of each other and compete at a high level without any extra stuff that takes away from the great games that we see week in and week out? You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of all the people that want to be fake tough and want all these players to go out there and throw hands with each other and dislike each other just for the sake of rivalries and dislike each other just for the sake of not liking each other or for whatever reason. You know what I mean? It takes away from the game at the end of the day, you know, and it's just unnecessary. It's really just unnecessary, you know. And obviously, there are going to be a lot of suspensions. A lot of players are going to, you know, there's a lot of guys who are going to miss senior day, unfortunately, because of these situations. The last game of the year, you know, they're not going to be able to have that moment with their family, you know, watching them play one final time for the last time in their college careers. And all because of what? All because of what? What if Virginia Union has some important guys get suspended for the D2 playoff game and you lose to Wingate, and you're going to know why? Because you couldn't keep it together for 1 second. You couldn't be graceful in victory or graceful in defeat. You know what I mean? So you got to understand that the shoe is going to be on the other foot. And you're not going to like the reaction to a loss the way that when you're taunting them and you in the middle of the field, you know, with belts, you know, talking about some belt to ass, like with them walking past you on the field. What do you think they're going to do? You know, you're egging them on. So it's like somebody's got to be the mature person in the room. And I don't want to talk down on the coaches because obviously these players are responsible for their own actions. They're adult men and they need to understand that they have to hold themselves to a higher regard as men. But at the end of the day, I got to look at the coaches and say, are you coaching this or are you just condoning it? If this is something that you're condoning, why is it? I get it. I hope that this is just a singular incident and that we don't see this again. But I'm looking at the coaches and I'm saying, don't let this happen again because your school's reputation is on the line. All of HBCU's reputations are on the line. Even though I know this is not an HBCU issue, they will find a way to make this an HBCU issue. So understand that this is bigger than just, you know, these players, you know, were just throwing a couple of punches. No big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal because if we start to get into regulating games differently in the way that we do post game, the way that we, you know, officiate games and all these personal fouls that are happening as frequently as they are, you're not gonna like how much they're policing the game. So get it straight on your end so we don't have to get to that point.
Yeah, and like speaking of coaches, among the suspensions in the North Carolina Central Howard fight, there were 19 players suspended from Howard, 17 from North Carolina Central, including one North Carolina Central assistant coach. And that speaks a lot to just what you're talking about, Jared, about like how coaches themselves have to be in control and make sure they set the example for their players. And TC Taylor was asked about it today as well in the SWAC media call, and this is what he had to say about it.
We'll continue to talk about it going into this weekend, but you know, it's our responsibility as a players. You talk about and the coaches as well. Talk about sportsmanship, you know, between players and coaches, and I don't think it should be something where you just basically outlawing handshaking at the end of the game. You know, we just got to be good as a conference, be great as a conference, and understand the sportsmanship side of this. You know, it's friends and family playing against each other, one another all week, former teammates and everything. So I don't want it to be a deal where we're saying well, we just can't, or we're not allowed, or we can't even get to the point where we can, you know, come across and greet on one another, even though, you know, who won or lost the football game. So we did discuss it, but I want to be able to go across and, you know, whatever team wins, you know, the best team that wins, be able to shake the hands and, you know, congratulate in the end.
Yeah, so coaches can still, you know, shake hands and congratulate each other after the games, but the players, can't, because everyone's a little kind of worried about what may transpire, especially like during these competitive ball games with a lot at stake, especially in rivalry games. So, it's a balance you have to make. Like, yeah, you do want sportsmanship expressed after games, but at the same time, you don't want to create a situation where it can become volatile. And you have guys out there who've been battling each other the entire game, talking trash to each other the entire game, taking cheap shots during the entire game, meeting in the field with with no supervision, and all of a sudden you turn your head for 1 second and they're brawling. So I think the conferences and these bowl games got to protect their interests first, before they think about whatever camaraderie may come from like post-game interactions. Chris, what do you make of the comments from TC Taylor about, like, yeah, he understands that, the conference, should be more wary about these things, but at the same time, don't take away our right to, meet with each other after the game's over.
Well, I mean, actions have consequences, honestly. And I'm not one of these people who is like, oh no, these white people is gonna be so mad at us for fighting on their television. No, I'm not one of those type of people. But I will say that if you guys can't go through a handshake, if your guys can't go through a handshake line without causing a ruckus, then you can't have a handshake line. That's just what it is. I mean, it's unfortunate, but you've got to have some disciplinary measures in place at some point. You can't just let the inmates run the asylum, as it were. And I mean, a lot of these young men, again, football is just it's a tough, physical, violent game. And you can't just expect guys to just turn this thing off after 60 minutes and say, yo, man, that was a great tackle, great game, great touchdown and all of that. You're going to be mad if you lose that war. So, I mean, but at the same time, you can't just, keep rewarding, bad behavior for the most part. So, I mean, I get what Coach Taylor's saying, but at the same time, the SWAC has to protect its interests, which is the brand of Black college football and the brand of HBCU athletics in the SWAC. So guys just got to, yeah, Tiger Nation, Lord, them white folk, what is we gonna do? Oh Lord, don't beat me, massa. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, you can't just, you can't just have no consequences. Guys got to learn that, things are, you do bad things happen to you. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, Chris, it is kind of ironic that Eddie Robinson Jr. trying to keep a level head when 2 years ago, he couldn't maintain his composure while shaking hands with Deion Sanders after the game. He didn't want in his words, the Obama bro hug, because of everything that went on during the week. It's ironic that came out of his mouth today. But, he's right, though. You do got to keep your head, though. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully no more punches are thrown, no more fights this weekend and in the future, because we don't want to be talking about this. So Chris, say the thing we always say at the end of the show, tell people support our channel and our work.
All right, so in place of Ken Rashad, I would like to invite you wonderful people. First of all, thank y'all for tuning in tonight on a Monday night. You're much better spending your time with us than rather with the Dallas Cowboys. So thank y'all for coming by tonight. We greatly appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and become a level 1 or level 2 member. You can get all the perks that we offer on this channel because we are working on some things behind the scenes that you guys are going to like. So stay tuned for that. You can check out our written work at HBCUsports.com. We upload and we report every single day of the week, so you don't miss a thing. If you want to donate, go to HBCUsports.com/donate. You can so generously sure that we can keep this good operation going, and that I can buy this 85 Chevy Caprice that I saw for sale on Facebook Marketplace the other day. If you guys want to help me out with that, I'm just saying. But yeah,
85 Chevy. What?
You never see. I mean, you know what the box Chevy is, man. Come on, Kendrick. I mean, you went to college in Mississippi. Dudes had donks down there. We love our old schools. But other than that, if you want to keep this organization going, go to HBCUsports.com/donate. You can donate the Zelle way at the HBCUsports.com. Sorry, Doc, they terrible. But yeah, be sure to donate, subscribe, check out our work. We are on all Facebook. We are all on on all social media platforms. We just joined the Blue Sky as well. We're there, so look for us there. We're on Blue Sky. We're on X. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Ken Rashad is still on TikTok. So yes, please be sure to check us out, and you'll be glad you did.
What Chris said. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for supporting our channel, our work, not only here on YouTube, but our website. We thank you greatly for that. We have a shop too, you know, on our website. You can buy this hat. You can buy shirts, you can buy hoodies, you can buy, I think, like dishware. I think Ken's hawking dishware now. He's like Trump. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Kendrick. That's Jared Hoffman, Team Tiffany all the way. We'll see you guys on Wednesday for the round table.